Three, two, one. Ladies and gentlemen, member of this House and also the Renewable Educator, first of all, I would like to rebut the opposition team under three main points. The first one, the status quo. They stated that place where they are corrupted are less developed country, so the corruptor actually corrupt to survive. However, it seems from the opposition team actually kind of like justifying the act of corruption itself rather than try to tackle it down. The second of all, the effectiveness of the punishment itself. From our side of the house, we actually want the corruption to be kind of like the corruptors to be impoverished. However, from their side of the house, they only kind of like stated about the jail punishment itself, and they also stated that even though they are still death sentence, people are still corrupting. However, we can see about kind of like the solution they offer is actually jail and imprisonment. So I would like to explain about the three types of crimes itself. The first one is physical crimes because they're actually dangerous in society, such as kind of like murder or physical abuse. Of course, you need to be imprisoned. How about the financial crimes? The second one is their kind of like the power they have is actually rely on their money itself, ladies and gentlemen. So when they're actually kind of like putting in the jail, they can still use their money to basically kind of like if you want to bribe the people or you want to kind of like send money to kind of like your friends or etc. So you will have kind of like living your best life even though you're being imprisoned in the jail. And then the third one is petty crime, is kind of like the lower level crimes that we will not talk about in this case. And the third of all is about their opinion that if the amount of money is a lot, it still can be owned by the corruptor itself, even to kind of like they're already impoverished, so kind of like they can still have some of the money. However, we can see it from their side of the house. If they're actually putting in jail, all of their money is actually still belong to them. So they kind of like didn't have any clear solution or any clear output on how they would tackle down this problem, because from our side of the house we could impoverish the characters, and why is it beneficial we would like to explain it later. So the second of all, I would like to explain kind of like the missing mechanism from the opening team. That the first one, that why the corruptor will no longer have the power, and also why it is effective to kind of like impoverish the corruptors. From our side of the house, we have three main points. The first one, the corruptor power relies on their finances. I already said before, because corruptor rely on their money, so they can basically bribe the people or basically kind of like living their best life. And then the second of all, by losing their power, we taken down the assets, we taken down their power itself, so they cannot do that kind of crime again. And about the opposition kind of like saying, but they still kind of like sometimes kind of like bribe, or even if they already become poor, they will kind of like commit the crime again, they're stating. And but in our side of the house, if you are already impoverished, it means that you will not have that title, you need to be corrupt in the kind of like governance or etc. And also this then also about petty crimes can be happen. Yes, petty crimes can be happen, we do acknowledge that. However, petty crimes is not as harmful as the corruption itself. So we think that from this side of the house, we have more benefit that can be taken from the impoverished the corruptors itself. And then the second of all, the mechanism about how to we would like to impoverish the corruptors. First of all, of course, we would like to kind of like make a clear, a strong policy on how we would like to apply it. First, we would like to investigate how much money that we will taken from the corruptor. We would like to investigate clearly how much money they taken from the state, and kind of like how much money that is supplied by for their family, etc. We will not take all of their money if that doesn't kind of like the money they corrupt from the state. So for example, if the corruptor's child already kind of like make his or her own money, we will not take that. We only taken the money that is actually belong to the state with kind of like several parts. And then the second of all, of course, we would like to freeze the asset first. So in the investigation system, the corruptor will not kind of like get any kind of like attempt to bribe the police or etc. or the judges. And then until they proven wrong, if they've already proven wrong, all the assets will be taken back to the country, back to its place where it's supposed to be, and we will use that money to actually for the country development, state development, kind of like for healthcare, for like education or poverty. And this is why impoverishment is better than the proposal offered by the opposition on just actually imprisonment and putting the corruptor in jail. And then, ladies and gentlemen, I would like to move to my argument why this is beneficial for the society itself. Because from the opening team and the opposition team, they only take talk mainly from the a little bit from the state side, and rather than about the kind of like the power held by the corruptor, etc. From our side of the house, we believe that actually the criminal justice system should work in every layer that is receiving the harm. When a certain person corrupt, it means that their money is belong to the state. But how about the state money? Where does the money come from? It came from the people itself, from the society, from the citizens. So it means that when they're actually taking the money from the state, they're taking the money from the society. They're taking the people that is actually paying taxes and etc. This is kind of like will be beneficial if we impoverish the corruption for the society under three main layers. The first one, that the people and the citizen will believe the government and the country better. It means that when actually they believe the government and the country can tackle down the corruptors by actually taking down the assets, making the corruptors cannot kind of like do the corruption again, they will get the deterrence effect because they are being poor. So it means that the society will believe the government and they would love to contribute to the country as the second aspect. So it means that they will kind of like willing to pay more taxes that will be beneficial for the country itself, and they will not feel like they are actually getting lots of harm because they're back taxes, because those taxes supposed to be back to them rather than actually being used by those people who do the corruption. And then the third of all, that the society also will get the benefit from the corrupted asset that is already kind of like taken back by the state. When corruption happens, it's mean that their rights is actually taken by the corruption, because that money is supposed to be come back to the society. However, in this case, if we didn't really take those money back, it means that the corruptor will use that money for their own kind of like important thing that they need to settle. So this is why, as the government team, we would like to impoverish the corruptor, not only because it is really important for the stage and also to make a deterrence effect, but because this is important as a country to protect its society, to build trust from the society. So this is why, as the government team, we are proud to propose.
Okay, let me start my timer first. Okay, I will start my speech in 3, 2, 1. Ladies and gentlemen, it's actually so sad knowing that back then, when we are facing the COVID-19 crisis, where people are facing crisis financially, it's hard for them to get a job and they have no resources to feed their family. And the state is being blamed for their inability to provide welfare for citizens in a time of crisis, and suddenly there's a news that actually the financial aid that you deserve is being corrupted by the governor, that probably you saw them going on vacation using your private facilities while you are suffering to death because of the lack of resources. We say that this is evil and we should take away the capacity to do the same thing, and we will make them suffer just as we do, just like the poor people do, right? My speech will be structured into mainly responding to opposition and a bit extension of my member, right? Let's talk about the whole cases of the opening opposition, right? They offer you alternative. They want to put these people behind bars, right? They say they want to put the corruptors into jail so they're not becoming a burden to state, and also they say that jail can prevent them from functioning, right? But ladies and gentlemen, this is not really explicit. The harm they are explaining is more likely happen under their side too. Let's talk about the first one. When they say jail is a better solution because it includes rehabilitation, etc., they could deter them. There are several problems in this argument. First, they never clearly explain to you how jail time and rehabilitation could rehabilitate corruptors and give them sense of deterrence that prevent them from doing the same corrupting activity in the future. Because there are tons of people who corrupt. There are tons of examples. They still gain trust from the society because they still have the capital to bribe and to resources to shut the mouth, to give like something to citizens, so they will gain the trust again from the citizen at the end of the day, right? They still have the resources, and we never know whether this really deter them or not. Second, the leader of opposition said jail time is effective because when you are behind bars, you're likely to stop and you have no power functioning in the jail anymore. In the society, right? And yes, this is correct, but only time specific, effective when they are in jail only. The moment when they are not in jail anymore, they still have the power and resources. Knowing that money is their biggest asset, they will likely to have a normal life after jail and probably still accepted by the people or society and can still functioning, or probably will still be employed, and corruptors will always there and no significant effect on them because like, oh, that's all right, jail time wasn't bad and I will still have a good life after this, so I still have the money that I corrupted, right? Not also to mention that the disparity that happens in jail, that is not explained well by the opening government, that normal jail for people who still like murder and and like steal or murder is cold and inhuman, right? Also, the food is sometimes not good. However, the jail for corruptors cannot even called as jail, because why? They can easily elevate their jail room into having 5-class hotel facilities. They have unlimited amount of the capital to do so, of the entertainment and access to everything, including money. And this happened because they still have the capital to do so, right? They still have the resources to begin with. And not only this create classes in terms of punishing people, but also deterrence will be so lacking under this specific jail time. Because why? Not like corruptor will likely say like, oh, it's just a form of staycation, and therefore alternatives proposed by opposition in jail time should not be taken into account. Comparatively, under outside of the house, deterrence effect will be better, because the moment when you are being impoverished, you have no resources to fulfill your needs. It will make them walk in the citizen's shoes, especially the poor that still needs to pay the taxes, because the taxes they paid by working their body up to that, and eventually used to feed the evil corruptors, or every penny that poor people spend to buy bar soap or Indomie, that is going to feed the corruptors with high-class meal, for example. And we want to make the corruptor experience the same that we want. We want the corruptor to feel the heavy weight and carried by all people all this time, and it was likely to create a deterrence effect, because people fear poverty, right? They do not want to be poor, and that's why we will think they will think twice when they want to corrupt. In addition, opposition also come to this debate saying that the moment they are impoverished, they will be poor, they will be poor, and there will be going to lack of employment, and it's becoming burden to the state. We said this is totally baseless, and the harm is not as significant as they think. How? First, their main concern about this is they are afraid that the state will need to pay for their needs, and it's resulted into government spending more money for the poor. Several responses. First, when you are poor, doesn't mean you don't have a complete resources. You have your body, you can still apply for work, you still have your degree and skill. Even if when you are rejected from finding work by using your brain, you can find work that includes physical activity like lifter or work in the garage, etc. So if you have brain, you still think how to survive. Second, on the point of state going to spend more capitals, we said no, this isn't likely to happen, because when you are impoverished, means all your asset is taken, and is taken back by the government or the state, and this money is more than enough to be used for other benefits for the society. So it's not reducing capital, but it adds more to the capital of the state. And comparatively, under their case, they mentioned that the burden state will not exist if they stick to the status quo. But ladies and gentlemen, it was mutually exclusive under their side, because let's see, because in Indonesia, first corruption bill has changed. At first, the bill said you need to pay back the amount that you corrupt, but finally it's changed. The level of fine is decreased. What was is that the fine is never actually returned or paid back by the corruptor, but by the society who purchasing daily needs. Even when they already go through jail time, they never return the money. The money is being corrupted, is paid back through indirect taxes, like when people buy goods or like purchasing daily needs, right? I'm going to continue on the extension of my member, right? On the extension of my member about the actor analysis of society, which never be explained by opening government. When people see a lot of corrupt activity going on in the state, people will slowly develop mindset that, oh, I don't want to pay taxes because it's going to be corrupted at the end of the day. And there's this mindset is going to bring significant harm. Because why? Tax is important to pay subsidy, to fix road, and to preserving many things. But the moment they don't pay taxes, there will be no money for the state to increase the quality of the state or the quality of the citizens in general. If that happens, there will be less money. And if less money, the capital is not there, and the people will likely not get what they deserve from the government, right? And if the capital is low, state has to borrow money from other country, and it's going to increases debt, and the country will likely to die financially and will likely to be a poor country, right? This will end up ignoring the more vulnerable actors of the society, which is like the poor that needs protection, because the poor, they didn't do something wrong over here. They need protection from the taxes, right? Compared to when we impoverish, they are not the victim of the poor. They are the only people that are going through punishments, because they once rich, but they are corrupt, so they don't need protection. But the real poor people need protection through capital, and these poor people will even crush if no subsidy from the taxes, and there's no help again to make them survive in their life, right? Because that is probably like the only resources that they can rely to, which is from the government, right? And this actor analysis has never been explained by the OG, and we are closing government is the one who are explaining this about this, right? And we think that the things that is proposed by opening opposition is not effective, and it is only effective when you impoverish the corruptors we very proud to propose.